Welcome to the Licensed to Live show, where professionals, doctors, champions, VIPs, attorneys, and those in public office discover strategies that help you restart and gain what is lost when you find yourself accused. If another has doubted your integrity, questioned your credentials, or caused your actions to come under scrutiny, you are in the right place. On the other hand, if you have never felt the knot in the pit of your stomach when legal papers are served, the heartbreak of disappointing your family when the lock clicks shut on handcuffs, or had to appear before a board of review, then be aware, the longer you serve, the more likely you are to find yourself under the microscope of those who judge. Prepare yourself for this uncomfortable possibility. Now, here's your host, Dr. Jarret Patton.
Welcome to episode 182 of Licensed to Live. My name is Dr. Jarret Patton, and I'm your host for our journey together today and every day you choose to listen to this show. If you or anyone you know has been dissed in their career, please invite them to join us along this journey. Just go to your favorite podcast player and hit subscribe. And while you are there, please rate this episode and give me honest feedback so I make sure I'm providing you with the most up-to-date information about career challenges and life changes. And before we even get into the episode, I have to give a shout out to all the obstetricians and gynecologists out there. I know that your job must be particularly tough now. The things that you were trained to do, the things that you had always done for the healthcare of women, a lot of these things are being stripped away from you for any number of reasons, whether we're talking about abortion or IVF. And the way the courts look at your practice of medicine is now turning your practice of medicine into a potential criminal game. You just take it from me, folks. You do not want your clinical career to get entangled with the criminal justice system. So I know it's hard. I know it may be scary for a lot of you people out there, but remember a couple of things. One, throughout your training, you've been trained for lots of things over your lifetime, and many of them you don't need, you don't use, but you were always prepared just in case. And I remember back in even medical school, and I went to medical school far enough ago, you actually got to do stuff as a med student. And I remember performing DNCs or dilatation and curettage for the non-medical people. And that is a common procedure that can be used for abortion. And I wasn't even practicing as a physician. I was still a student. But hey, after I was done with medical school, went on in pediatrics, I never had the use for that skill, never had to do it again. But some of your practices may be changing right before you. And it certainly depends on the state you live in. So I'm telling you guys to hang in there. I know there's a lot of changes. I know there's a lot of fear, but just know that these things can end up in criminal charges. And if you want to be one of those people that are out there in the front and maybe you want to be a martyr and be one of the first people to get arrested doing some of this stuff in any given state, have at it. Somebody's going to have to do it to make a statement. But if you're just trying to get by, you're just trying to take care of your patients, and you're just trying to do something in your daily life, you're going to have to yield to the attorneys. You're going to have to yield to the risk management people. And you may not like the decisions that they come up with, but you must approach all of these things with caution. And, while I can't make up the mind for any of you guys out there, I certainly want to support and just know that this time must be difficult for many of you. And if you're having difficulties, particularly, reach out. Now, in today's episode, we are taking a few letters from the mailbag. Yes, we haven't done this in a while, and there's been some good questions that have been submitted out there for us, and I can't wait to get into them. And we're going to get into the mailbag right after we finish thanking our sponsors.
Something smells good. EH3 coffee. EH3 coffee. Premium organic. Nothing better than waking up. EH3 in your cup. Premium organic. EH3 coffee. Nothing better than in the middle of your day. EH3 coffee. Premium organic. EH3 coffee.
EH3 Coffee has been a long time sponsor of this show. They have sponsored Licensed to Live, the conference, for a couple of years. They continue to sponsor this podcast, and I continue to drink EH3 Coffee. Check it out. Make sure you use the code Dr. Jarret. You do get a discount. And in fact, I might go brew up some right now. I could use a little kick. Hey, this is Dr. Jarret Patton. Do you need more positivity in your life? No matter what part of your life you want to transform, positive affirmations can help you achieve your goals. But sometimes making permanent changes can be difficult. Designed with you in mind, Licensed to Live, daily affirmations to rebuild your life will inspire and equip you to become the best version of yourself. Licensed to Live, daily affirmations to rebuild your life will set you on the path to changing your mindset, beliefs, speech, and ultimately your actions. You can change your life now by getting your copy at Amazon, Barnes & Noble, your finer book retails, or licensedtolive.com. That's licensedtolive.com.
Hey guys, this is Janae Noonan, and I'm here with Dr. Jarret on Licensed to Live. Hit the subscribe, follow the journey, let's go.
Yes, Chronicles from the mailbag. That is exactly what we're talking about today. And I am having a lot of fun reading these letters. So first things first, if you guys want to reach out to me, give me a question, you can DM me, you can tweet me, you can hit me up on all social media at Dr. Jarret. Spell out the word doctor, J-A-2-R-E-1-T. And on the next Chronicles from the mailbag, we will get your question on the air. In addition, if you want to reach me anywhere, anytime by email, info@drjarret.com. Well, here we have our first letter coming from Dr. Emily. Dear Dr. Jarret, I am considering writing a book on my life. What are some things I should consider when I write my first book? Does it matter if I never wrote before? Dr. Emily, no. It does not matter if you've ever written a book before. I do want to remind everyone listening to this show that you all are writers. You have been writing since elementary school. You've had to turn in papers. You've done it in every level of your education. Chances are you have to do some sort of writing for your job. You have to do some sort of writing for everyday life. Listen, first-time authors, anytime authors, go for it. So I wanted to answer that second question first, Dr. Emily. It does not matter if you've ever written before. But when you're writing your first book, a memoir can be a great thing to accomplish. A lot of you guys out there have incredible stories about your life, harrowing tales, even from your jobs and hospitals, and things maybe you just want to get off your chest. So why not write about it? The first thing that I want you guys to consider if you're writing a book is really your message. What is the message that you want to deliver? And I remember when I started writing the first Licensed to Live book, that's the primer to rebuilding your life after your career gets shattered. And I wanted to tell a story. I wanted to tell my story. I wanted to tell a piece of my story that many people hadn't heard yet. And I wanted to use my experiences in my story to help other people who may find themselves in similar situations or very different situations. There are things that you can use in that book that can be of help. So think about your messaging and what is the overall message you want to tell. Even if you were just telling the stories of Dr. Emily's life and it starts in the pastures of Omaha and goes through the city streets of New York and has all these ups and downs and twists and turns, or if there may not be, anything very exciting about it at all, but the fact that you want to write about it is there. And think about the message you want to deliver. And while you're thinking about that message, whatever that message may be, because chances are if it's about your life, it's going to be inspirational in some case. Think about your audience. Who do you want your audience to be? Do you want it to be people like you? Do you want it to be people in a certain sector, people of a different age group? So think about how you are going to deliver this message to your potential audience. Now, this doesn't mean that your audience is limited to this single individual. It actually can mean that it's, can go across, people, genres, age groups, you name it. They're going to be people picking up your book of all walks of life. But that main audience may get that message that you're going through there. And then the final thing that I'd say is that don't be stingy on your sharing. The more you can share, the more details on your life, the more pain, the more pleasure, the more ups and downs that you do have makes it for a much more enjoyable read. So having that courage to share your story with a large audience of people maybe you know and lots of people you don't know, that is the key. So just share until your heart's content and then go on. Now, there are a lot of things that you need to consider, Dr. Emily, as you're writing your first book. And I hope that you just start writing, because that's my first simple advice. Just write. Don't worry about the details. Don't worry about the technical stuff. Just write. And I've outlined a number of things that could be of help actually in a free video course that I have. If you have 28 minutes in your life, go to the show notes right now and take this free course on authorship. It's on drjarretfree.com/authorship, and you will learn about writing your first book. It talks about, things and the ways you can publish. It talks about the way you get your message out there. Even if you want to become a bestseller, it's all there in this course. Go to the show notes or drjarretfree.com/authorship, and there you go. The course is yours. So thank you, Dr. Emily, for writing into us at License to Live, the podcast, and good luck with your book. Our next question, it comes from Rabbit. And it was very brief, submitted in a DM on Twitter. And it says, Dr. J, why do you never talk about your other podcast here? Thanks, Rabbit, for that question. I'm laughing because I don't know how people find out these things sometimes, because I try to keep my communication channels open and clear. And on License to Live, I'm talking to all you fire starters out here. And many of you guys are looking for a change in your career, more satisfaction of your career, or maybe wanting to launch into a whole new career, which is a lot of the content that I try to provide for you guys here. But Rabbit comes in and gives me this quick note about License to Live in the podcast, but where he met me through is through the Whose Badass Kids Are Those podcast. the original 2 Cents Tuesday, which is not a podcast you can find on your current podcast player. You're listening to me now. You can only find it on Facebook. It's only live. It's only Tuesdays at 1 p.m. Eastern. And I've done that all this time to help parents that are out there who want to get better health and behavior out of their kids. So that is a purely pediatric podcast that I run. And I've done that for, I don't know, it's got to be at least 6 years now. Live on Facebook. So it's something it's fun and then I like to do, but it's not anything that I typically talk about on License to Live because we're not necessarily talking about pediatric topics unless we have another fellow pediatrician on as a guest, in which, as you guys know, we have lots of great conversations with some pediatricians and actually have some that will be coming up relatively soon on the content calendar that you're going to get an interview with another pediatrician that has some really cool ideas about some stuff. So for you, Rabbit, thank you for bringing that brief question. The main reason I don't talk about the Who's Badass Kids or those podcasts here is that there is not a real link to pediatrics and your career unless you're a pediatrician. But I will say this. I enjoy interacting with my audience of the Who's Badass Kids or those podcasts as well. And anytime you want to see what's going on with that podcast, follow me at Dr. Jarret on Facebook. Then you'll see quite a bit of different content there because it really is more pediatric focused. But I met Rabbit years ago at a parenting conference. I was one of the speakers there. And we talk from time to time when I run into him at different parenting conferences over the years. And he knew me as a pediatrician, Dr. Jarret, the writer of the Who's Badass Kids or Those book series. And he didn't know I had this whole other brand under License to Live where I'm helping you fire starters out there. So that's just a little maybe unknown fact out there that Rabbit had a lot of fun poking fun at me underhandedly, but it's all good because I appreciate you guys. Well, now we are going to run into the anonymous section of our show. These are the letters sent in by anonymous. And you won't want to miss these, and you'll see why they're anonymous. And I'll be back with those letters right after we finish thanking our sponsors.
The time is now to refresh your career. We help doctors, lawyers, executives, and VIPs refresh and restart. Dr. Jarret's coaching helps you build confidence, gain more credibility, develop more leadership skills, and gain clarity in your career path. Want to climb the executive ladder or branch out on your own? We'll put your career in overdrive. Visit drjarret.com and sign up for your free strategy session.
I can't tell you how many good relationships that have started by simply having a strategy session with me. Getting that strategy session, it'll take 30 minutes of your time, but we get to talk. I get to hear about what your challenges are. I get to give you real-time advice on how you may solve some of those challenges. And whether or not you become a client, you're always going to have the contact. So go to timewithdrjarret.com, make an appointment with me, and hey, you get a new colleague in contact. Well, back in this mailbag, so let me get to the anonymous section. And these are some pretty serious letters and some pretty serious issues, but they're not unique, but I think it's a good place to talk about them right here. Dear Dr. Jarret, I recently resigned my job after a scandal developed involving an extramarital affair. I've taken steps to center my life and healing from my trauma. I'm ready to go back into the working world, but unsure where to start. Not sure I really want to keep on doctoring, but is there a blacklist that I should be aware of that may block any potential hire? Well, thank you, Dr. Anonymous, for the question, because this is a real question. I've had clients who have had this issues. I've had colleagues who have had this exact issue, and I've seen them thrive even after going through a very personal circumstance like a relatively public extramarital affair. And when these type of things happen, I often get questioned about blacklists and who may get blacklisted and why and where. And before I even send in my application, do people already know to check me off their list? So that is a very interesting question and dilemma. So first of all, Dr. Anonymous, I'm so sorry for what you have been going through. An extramarital affair is one of those big things in life that can be tough to come back from. And I'm glad you've taken the steps to kind of recenter your life and get some help and some healing from the trauma that goes on around here, because that's very important. It's something that you need to take those steps and continue to take those steps and fix your life now, because this is an ongoing process. And not only the trauma from this individual incident, but all the trauma in your life and all the things that you've been involved in your life up until this point, successful, good, bad, ugly, somewhere in between. It's all there. So continue to take the times to take care of yourself. So see a marital coach or a relationship expert, a life coach, a counselor, a psychologist, psychiatrist. All of these people should be a part of your team and just making sure that you're okay. And as you are getting stronger and getting better from this insult in your life, you start thinking about your job again and what you want to do to get into your job. And so this is a great time that I'm telling you, Dr. Anonymous, even though it came out of a bad situation, but you can look at your career, and you can look at your career without any limitations, without any boundaries. You actually can look for a job just like you had. You can look for a new job in a new industry. You can, find your own way, pick up a side hustle, or start a new business. There are lots of things you can do, but pay attention in particular to the things that motivate you. So things that really motivate you, that should fall in line with where your career goes. Because if you're motivated by helping people, then you can be continued to help people and motivated and have a great time with it. If you've kind of had a side job or side business, you want to go full time with that, this may be a good time to do that. And so you may want to see a business coach or even a career coach like me that'll help you get this next business off the ground. But probably the most important thing to do is analyze your old job before you resigned. Take a list of all of the things that you like, all of the things that you don't like of your old job. And all the things that you like, you can obviously keep. But the things that you dislike, you need to pay special attention to and make sure that you are not re-involving or re-adding this back into all of your new job, because that is something that's gonna help you. Or it's not going to help you at all. It's really going to harm you, because you end up in the same situation that you were, where you may not have been very happy. Something else you may need to do, especially if you're thinking about starting your own business or going into a new industry, is recalibrating your finances. depending on how much money you were earning before, your new job or your new career path may or may not have that same amount of money to attach. So it's a time to go through all of your financials and recalibrate your finances. And I had a whole chapter 4 in License to Live, A Perimeter Rebuilding Your Life After Your Career is Shattered. Chapter 4 is dedicated to recalibrating your finances. And we talk about a systematic method of changing your finances so they fit your current situation and not your finances in a dream state or a past state. So definitely check out chapter 4 about recalibrating your finances. And then back to the database question. I mean, there's the National Practitioner Data Bank that's out there, obviously, if there's any formal actions against doctors out there. But you can look at, baddoctors.org. I mean, there's lots of bloggers and people that keep track of, crazy stories that involve doctors out there and, what happened with them and what happened with them after. There are lots of stuff that is out there like that. And you can search them and see if there's anything on there about you. But if there is or is not, I wouldn't spend a lot of your time doing that because, well, at least you know it's out there and then you can move on. But there's not like a formal blacklist that's out there where people meet, on a quarterly basis and update it with names and say, if this person shows up in your organization, there should be a do not hire no matter what. So you can look at some of those places, but take it with a grain of salt. I know I similarly went through this after my criminal trials, and I went back to a couple of these places and said, I told you from the first place, you had the story all wrong. You need to update it. You need to put in the factual evidence because next thing you know, I'll be coming after all of you, heartless bloggers out there. And most of them don't want any, they don't want that smoke. So they'll take the stuff down or update it or edit it as need be. But there are other things you can do. You can Google yourself, or even if there's enough stuff written about you, you can chat GPT it. I asked ChatGPT once to create a 100-word bio for me, and it was able to do that and quite accurately, which was very impressive. So, I mean, there's a lot of tools out there that can help you find out information about yourself. And if there's something out there, you can work to clean that up. But if there's nothing out there, you can't find it easy. I guarantee you people who are reviewing you for your next job, they are not going to do much more than just a easy, casual glance. And if nothing's there, nothing's there. So good luck, Dr. Anonymous. Sounds like you're off to a great start in recovering from this very public event for you. As things continue to heal and you're moving forward, hey, reach out at any time. Thank you for sending us this letter. Created a great discussion today because you are not out there alone. Our final letter for Chronicles of the Mailbag, that volume 1 that we have going on right now. Dear Dr. Jarret, I was a happily employed family physician working in a private practice. To make ends meet, I worked as a recovery doctor in an independently owned practice. This practice came under intense scrutiny, and thus did I when I was hauled in on a federal investigation and found guilty of a number of drug-related charges. Despite my innocence in this situation, I served 4 months in a federal penitentiary and have completed all of my supervision. I miss my patients and my colleagues, and I would love to go back into family practice. But even after serving a sentence, is it possible to work again as a doctor? Dr. Anonymous, this is a fantastic question. Again, a very tough one. So I'm so sorry that you're going through this. And I'm going to have to get this episode out because I have an episode upcoming talking about doctors having a target on their back from a number of different people, whether it be regulators, investigators. The DEA often comes into this when we're talking about drug addiction and recovery centers. And unfortunately, so many doctors, we tend to be altruistic. We tend to be trying to do the right things for the right people. And we trust people. And it's this trust because we're going to trust, the sheep. We're going to trust the wolves and the sharks as well. And these wolves and sharks may intentionally be taking you down or unintentionally taking you down and using you as a scapegoat because you have that target on your back. And this is something I've seen time and time and time and time again. And both as chief of staff when I worked in large hospital systems and unfortunately as a career restart coach, I've helped lots of people who wanted to restart and refresh their career after a prison sentence. And I'm going to tell you this, that with your innocence still presumed despite having this negative outcome, there's the appeals process. There's lots of legal ramifications. You can talk to your lawyer that will help continue to clear up some of these things. But I have a particular client who, even after being found guilty in these trumped up charges and having had to serve a sentence, the appeals process went all the way up through the Supreme Court, which overturned the initial decision of guilt. So now, even though, of course, his life as a doctor was destroyed and lost licenses and all of this thing, now the courts are trying to undo some of this damage by vacating all of these previous decisions. So there's still some ways to clear your name out there, regardless of what actually happened in the court. But to get to your main question, is it possible to work again as a doctor? The answer is yes, but a lot depends on the individual circumstance. So Dr. Anonymous, feel free to give me a call back and I can talk to your situation individually a little bit better than I can to this situation and generally on the podcast. But we know that any new job that you have, there's a series of questions that ask, have you ever been under investigation? Have you ever been arrested? Have you ever been convicted of? Or and so on and so on and so on. And the questions get more and more difficult because now they're asking, things like, has anyone ever attempted to investigate you on something like that? And you're like, I don't know if anybody's attempted to, but for crying out loud. The way they ask these questions is to make HR easier for them, first of all. So let me just tell the truth here. And unfortunately, when you start answering yes to these questions, regardless of what you type in after the yes with the mandatory explanation, for a lot of this, it just weeds out people. And unfortunately, they're missing out on great talent and maybe even the exact person they're looking for because they are screening them out because they answered yes to one of these questions without even seeing what the answer is or what the specific circumstance is or even how long ago it happened or any of that. So unfortunately, there's a lot of things up against you, Dr. Anonymous. So you have to answer the questions honestly, and it may make it difficult to get through the initial screening process. But you can start back with some of the colleagues that you know, and you can talk about your situation with people that you trust and say, here is my situation. Do you think I could get hired under these circumstances? Because, of course, you have to work with your medical board in your state, make sure your license is clean and free and all of those types of things. And it all depends on the state that you're living in. Or that this alleged event happened in. And so it can make it very, very difficult. So is it possible to work again as a doctor? yes, absolutely. People do get second chances. People do get, and in fact, when you really make it through some of these screening processes, people often find that people like yourself who have gone through these life-changing events, maybe even had to go as far as going into prison, you have a changed perspective on life and you actually become a better person, a better physician after this experience. So don't give up hope. Don't give up hope. Now, the route that I took when this was happening to me, I already knew because I sat, president of medical staff. I used to see these applications come through with people who did not have a squeaky clean history and the bias that was brought against them in many systems when they didn't have a squeaky clean system or squeaky clean record. But it is possible to work again as a doctor, but I took the standpoint, I could not wait for somebody else to make that decision. I could not wait for somebody else to do it. I opted to, well, like I told you in the first question, get to writing a book, telling a story, because that is a painful part of my life that really wasn't deserved, but I had to suffer through it and live through it anyway. And I didn't want to depend on people again because I saw what they can do with you. They can just toss you to the side at any given time. So I said, if I'm going to work for something, I'm going to work for myself because I believe in me. I know I can make a difference in people's lives. And even though I didn't get right back to doctoring again, and help people in a different way, it was much more fulfilling. And it's, the reason why I'm here with you guys right now. So great things happen out of sadness, out of trials, out of tribulations, out of all of these tests that come across our lives. Well, I tell you what, Chronicles from the Mailbag is fun. I already have a couple more for the next time I plan on doing an episode like this. And keep the questions coming, guys. I mean, you guys are bringing up some great discussion points and some a lot of great fun that we can have together as fire starters. Remember, fire starters, if you or anyone you know has been disengaged, dissatisfied, disgruntled, disenfranchised with their career, please invite them to join us along this journey. Simply go to your favorite podcast player and hit subscribe to License to Live. And while you're there, make sure that you are giving me honest feedback about this episode and any other episodes so I can continue to help as many people as I can. And it's these ratings that actually help spread the message to other people. It's all these things in podcasts that they get highlighted. And if you guys are liking the help that I'm providing, I'd love to help more people. And you can help me by giving me a 5-star review. And in between episodes, check me out on social media. I just hang out a lot on LinkedIn. And you can find me anywhere on social media at Dr. Jarret. Spell out the word doctor, J-A, 2 R's, E, 1 T. And I will see you guys next time.
No matter how disheartening the moment of accusation sounds, how deep the pain of immobilization stabs, or how bleak your future looks, no one can take away your license to live. Keep Dr. Jarret's expertise handy and unlock your future. Go to Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, or another podcast player and subscribe right now to Licensed to Live. See you next time.